Hello, welcome. Today's video is part 2 following part 1 of me walking around Poland with the Leica Summicron 35mm f2 lens. Today's video will hopefully give you everything you need to know. 8 minutes of back-to-back photos to hopefully show the full character of this lens, and then stay with me until the end. I'm going to give you a side-by-side comparison of the version 1 Summicron clone, which is the 8-element Light Lens Lab replica, versus the version 3 Summicron that we're looking at today. Here you can see both lenses side by side, and I'm going to show you photos using the collapsible version of the Light Lens Lab 35mm f2 8-element. With that, let's get into the video. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. First, a big thanks to Peter Coulson. I was travelling with Peter earlier in the summer in Poland, and he kindly lent me his 35mm Summicron to borrow. Also, a special thanks to my amazing patrons. Patreon is a platform where I share additional content. If you want to see more, I can put some links below. Before we get started, let's first cover the different versions of the Summicron 35mm lens. Today's video is not going to cover the Summicron R. We're only going to be looking at the Leica M out lenses. That said, the Summicron R lens is excellent. As you can see from this photo, I'm going to use this lens on my Leica R cameras. Okay, back to the M lenses. So there are multiple versions of this lens, from the original 8-element released in 1958 all the way through to the Apo released in 2021. Feel free to pause the video or screenshot it to see the different versions. All the versions mentioned are Leica M out, rangefinder coupled with a 39mm filter size and a close focus distance of 0.7 meters, excluding the Apo, which is 0.3 meters. With that, let's get into the video. Okay, colors. So these are sample photos shot with the Leica Summicron 35 f2 on my Leica SL camera. See part 1 if you want to see photos shot with my Leica M240. All of these photos are raw files, so these are the true colours coming out of camera without any editing. I just added a slight amount of sharpness to all photos to try and give a more realistic look. I love the colours. I think it's got a slightly warmer tone than the Light Lens Lab lens, which you're going to see coming up. And overall very pleasing, and I'd say it's quite an arty lens. It gives almost better than reality photos, like more of a painterly look. When you shoot this lens after dark or in the dusk, you get really nice warm colours when shooting tungsten lights, as you can see here. And yeah, just very, very arty lens. Really liked it, and yeah, highly recommend it from my results so far. Okay, what about sharpness? Now, this is a big one for some of us. So here's the sharpness side by side at different f-stops, and then I did some close-up crops. Center sharpness is great, even at f2, but it does improve as you stop down to say 5.6. Corner sharpness is slightly different. It is very soft at f2, you're going to see in these photos coming up. Here's a crop off center, and as you can see, just look at the fall off as the sharpness falls away. Here's an edge crop, and here's f2 on the left, f5.6 on the right, and it's just, here's another crop from the bottom left hand corner, f2 versus f5.6, and again you can just see like the mushy corners if you shoot this lens wide open. Okay, sun stars. Shooting the 35mm Summicron wide open or at wide f-stops, you're not going to get much of a sun star, but as you start to stop down, you get some really nice sun stars. This lens will give you 10-point sun stars, being a 10 aperture bay lens, and you can get some very pleasing looking sun stars, as you can see from this little video clip shot with the Leica SL camera. Next, lens flare. This lens can flare a lot, and you can get flare like that, circles of flare on the photos, but you can also get veiling flare. First, if we look at this type of flare, which is like the circular patterns of flare across the photos, I did find that quite arty, and it can be quite pleasing in certain situations, but it's definitely not for all occasions. This is now a veiling flare on the left, veiling flare on the right. I use my hand to protect the lens, so no veiling flare. As you can see from these photos, veiling flare is like a reduced contrast and reduced detail across the entire image. It's a bit like using a mist filter. Lens bokeh. You may know that version 4 of the Leica Summicron is called the King of Bokeh, but this is version 3. I think the bokeh is absolutely beautiful from this lens. You got this kind of elliptical bokeh which swirls a little bit into the center. You'll see it's kind of more cat-eye at the edges, rounder in the center, and it reminds me of the Leica Summilux Prius spherical lenses in terms of the bokeh. Very, very pleasing, and yeah, really liked it. Vignetting. The Leica Summicron isn't terrible for vignetting. There is some fall off in the corners at f2, but by 5.6 the images really do clean up quite a lot. Okay, on to portraits. If you've not seen this channel before, when I'm not making lens reviews, I tend to be photographing models. And if you want to follow my work, I can put a link to my Instagram on the screen. I was trying to use the Leica Summicron 35mm f2 shooting into the sun for these photos of Sophie when I was out in Poland. You will see more of Sophie in more videos to come because I was using different lenses on the same day. You can see me directing Sophie to give an idea of the pose I was going for. And if you want to see more about model photography, see my last video. These portraits are shot wide open f2 into the sun, and it gave really pleasing soft skin tones and just a really beautiful look overall with no editing. Really liked it. Now this photo is shot with the light lens replica of the version 1 Summicron. Let's now cover version 1 Summicron replica versus version 3 Summicron. Here you can see both lenses side by side, and as mentioned with the Light Lens Lab lens extended, they're roughly the same size. See the Light Lens Lab video, but you can get both a rigid version and a collapsible. I use the collapsible because that allows me to use it on screw mount cameras as well as M mount cameras. The big question is, how do these lenses compare? First, let's look at lens flare. So this is comparing the 8-element collapsible on the right and the Summicron on the left. You can see on the right you get the extra rings of flare, and that's because the copy I've got has got the UV filter attached. You can remove this UV filter to then remove the rings of flare. Again, see the Light Lens Lab video, I can link it at the end. Next, sun stars. Both lenses will give you very nice sun stars. Not much between them, they both have a slightly different look as you can see from the photos. Feel free to pick your favourite. Bokeh. Now I'm going to do a crop from the portraits to show you the difference in bokeh. The Leica Summicron bokeh is like elliptical, like rugby ball shaped bokeh or cat eye bokeh, where the Light Lens Lab bokeh is more circular with a harder edge towards the centre of the frame. Here's another crop, this time of a leaf, and again you can see the bokeh. What about the centre sharpness of both lenses? If we take a crop from both of these photos, you can see that the centre sharpness is reasonably similar. I think the Light Lens Lab has got the slight edge, but the Leica Summicron is not terrible. Here's another centre-ish crop. Again, I think the Light Lens Lab is sharper, but again the Summicron's not awful. This is a centre-ish crop at close focus distance, and this time I think maybe the Summicron's slightly better or maybe the same. Head sharpness, this is a different story altogether. Like a Summicron in the corners is the mush as we've seen before, very soft in the corners. The Light Lens Lab retains the detail in the corners, and so that might be more to your liking if you want a better lens for all around use. Again, here you can see from this crop the Light Lens Lab is better in the mid zones also. Okay, so what is the final verdict? For me, the version 3 Summicron is definitely a character lens with a painterly look and a more artistic representation of what you're photographing. When trying to describe the look of this lens, I would maybe say it's like having a Voigtlander Ultron lens with a soft mist filter attached. In terms of the pros of this lens, it's got a really nice small size, lightweight, great bokeh, good centre sharpness, and flare if you like flare. The cons is very soft on the corners, and it has a lot of flare if you don't like flare. So it's something for everybody. What about Leica Summicron 35 f2 alternative lenses? If you're looking for a 35mm character lens yet with better, more controlled performance, check out the Light Lens Lab 8-element. I can put a link below. That's my personal choice, and I absolutely love this lens. You could also consider the Voigtlander Nocturne 35 1.4, which is also small and very arty in its way it renders. Okay, if you're looking for a more modern look, I would say definitely consider the Leica 35 f2 Apo if you want the best lens Leica offers. If you want something small and more corrected than the Summicron, consider the Voigtlander Ultron, which is the lens I use. And if you like lenses with good sharpness and high contrast, definitely consider Zeiss lenses such as the Zeiss Bygone 35 f2 or f2.8. Talking of Zeiss lenses, if you like great performance from a 35mm lens, definitely check out the Zeiss Distagon. Check out these other 35mm lenses for Leica next.